Hey, Mo, you're muted.
There it is. That's the phrase of the decade. You're muted. I should get a
Yeah.
t-shirt, get a mask. You're muted.
You're muted.
The doctor.
The doctor is in. The doctor is
Happy Wednesday. It's hump day.
It's hump day. What happened to Monday and Tuesday this week? Maybe because we were together over the weekend. I don't know. I lost track, but all I know is Touchtober is over and we had a great Touchtober and now we are on to November and it's caregiving month and it's Indigenous People Month and it's going to be a great month of love. And we have an incredible love, caregiving love. It's a love story today, So
It really
I don't
is.
even know how I met you guys, but our show, I love your name, Meet the Keels, and it's a love story to remember. So who are you guys? Introduce yourselves and then we'll do your story.
So this is Chuck and Hannah Keels. It was the Chuck show and the Hannah show as of 2 years ago, but cancer brought us together, and that's part of our whole story. So what I wanted to do was just kind of tell you how I even got in the cancer world, first of all, and that lets people know, that not only are we living this life where Hannah's in treatment and stuff right now, but we know more about cancer than we've ever wanted to know.
Oh my God, right.
And that's because of our personal experiences. And in 2015, I was getting sick and went into a hospital in Phoenix, Arizona, and was diagnosed with stage 4 prostate cancer that had gone to where it's fed and went into my bone marrow and my lymph nodes. And basically a team of doctors told me that that at this point, with it being so much of it in my body, there was nothing the medical industry could do, so they sent me home on liquid morphine to just be at peace. And that night I had a knock on the door and it was 2 hospice nurses. So in 2015, I was diagnosed with stage 4 prostate cancer, and I was told I had 3 months to live, maybe, and I was put in hospice. So what do you do when all this stuff starts happening? Your head's spinning. I had 2 boys I was raising as a single dad, and basically I just said, hey, let's pack up and head back to Ohio because that's where my family was at, and I wanted to have, get my boys back there and them to be with people they love, because I didn't know how much longer I was going to last. And so the day we were supposed to fly out of Phoenix, I suffer a compression fracture. So my back broke because of all the softening and damaging of the bone called metastasis. I suffer a spinal collapse. I'm on the floor. I'm rushed to the hospital by the fire department. And at the hospital, they started running tests, and they said, we want to fight this. And I'm like, well, what's your plan? Because I already, on the other side of town, I was already put in hospice. And they said, well, we want to stop feeding the cancer and then start killing it. So we want to do an orchiectomy, stop the testosterone production in the male body. And then the next day start chemo. So they're going to put a port in also. That was another surgery. And then the next day start chemo and killing the cancer in my body. And they said that was my chance. And I said, hey, a fight's a fight. What are you going to do? Let's go. Let's get it on. So I went into 2 surgeries, back-to-back surgeries, and they did the orchiectomy. They put my port in. 2.5 hours later, I'm in the recovery room. So it's an older hospital in Central Phoenix, and I'm laying there watching everything going on around me. And I'm excited to get upstairs and see my family. And as I'm laying there, the entire room turns weird cold for no reason at all. And so as I'm laying there, I look down to the right because that's where the double doors were, where they were taking the patients in and out for their surgeries. I'm thinking somebody opened the door and let the cold air come in. But when I looked down to the right, the doors were shut. And so I'm like, what is going on here? I'm scrunched up. So I look down there, the door's shut. And as I'm coming back to my left, I'm panning to my left. And when I get back this way, I actually jump and I'm looking at a brown robe, white scarf, bearded face. I'm looking at Jesus. He's looking at me and I'm flipping out. And his right foot does a half a step and he reaches out and touches me on the right shoulder. I never seen his mouth move or anything, but I heard in my head, I got you. I got you. And he touched my shoulder and he was gone, completely gone. And so I'm laying there flipping out. Was it a doctor? Was it a nurse? Was it a janitor? What did I just experience? And so that day, the nurses come in and they say, it's time for your meds. Here's your steroids. Here's your bone strengtheners. Now your pain meds are on a scale as needed. So on a scale from 1 to 10, 10 being the worst, how bad's your pain right now? And I sit up in the bed and I'm looking at them and I'm like, I don't feel any pain. And they're like, well, you just had, surgery, broken back, all these, you were on liquid morphine when we met you, so order something. And I said, I don't even like taking aspirin. I don't want to take a drug if I don't have to. And they said, okay, they handed me the nurse button and they said, okay, when it starts, and it will, they were, this is the medical industry. When it starts, and it will, hit the button. We'll get in here because we don't want it to get too far ahead of you. So from May 26, 2015 to right now, hanging out with you guys, I never touched another pain med. And so I knew in my head something was happening. I didn't know what, something was happening. Still a human guy, am I going to make it through this? I got 2 boys to raise. And what happens is they start me through chemo, and I'm doing chemo every 2 weeks. And it's a 6-month plan. And 3 months into it, when they do their first scan, my doctor, she's from Pakistan, and she's just a beautiful little fire plug. She's on top of every little thing going on. And she says, I walk into her after I got my drip, and then went down. They called my name, went in to see her. She's got a smile on her face, and she's looking at me, and she's like, I couldn't wait to see you today. She said, I've studied cancer all over the world, and I've never seen anything like this before in my life. Your journey's not of medicine. It's miraculous. Your scans look like a normal, healthy guy. So I mean, my head's spinning, but I'm just, blown away. And I'm one of those guys that I was going to the gym. I was down 40 pounds from the cancer and the bone breaking down. And I was down, muscle melted off of my body. And I knew I wasn't going to go in there and put the pin under the whole stack like Chuck used to, but I could put it under the first plate and just make myself go. I was one of those guys that just, push myself at the park walking, in the pool swimming. I did all these things. And, at the time, it was more or less just me and mind over matter. I'm going to win this battle. I didn't know that God had a plan that I was going to actually be teaching other people this stuff now. The big, mindset, positive mindset through a cancer diagnosis. And so as I was getting better and back to work, and was taking calls from people around the country saying, hey, my wife was diagnosed and you survived stage 4 cancer. What did you do? So I got pulled into becoming a cancer coach, and I wanted to help people. If my journey helped them, then I definitely wanted to do that. And my cousin introduces me to a young lady that has stage 4 breast cancer. And that young lady is sitting next to me right now.
Yeah, so we met because of cancer. I was actually looking for help, how to publish my book that I had just written. And it was a story about experiencing the 5 major stressors of life, which were also losses in life, over a 2.5-year period, which actually started almost the same month he was diagnosed. I hadn't met him yet, but I had moved to Phoenix from Pennsylvania, and with my 4 teenage boys and my husband of 21 plus years. And about 6 months after we moved, he dropped the bomb. He'd been unfaithful, wanted out of the marriage. I cried for 3 months straight and found a lump in my breast. And so that summer, I was not only diagnosed with breast cancer, I got divorced, had a double mastectomy, had to go back to work full time as a nurse to support my family. And within a year, found out it had gone to stage 4 cancer. And a year after that, my very best friend committed suicide. So it was just like loss upon loss. And I ended up writing a story about it. And I wrote my story. God wrote the story. I wrote it down. And just my experiences and all the lessons I learned from it. And so I was trying to figure out how to publish this thing. And one of my really good friends Heather was like, oh, I don't know why I never introduced you to my cousin, Chuck. You guys should meet. He just self-published a book called Hi, I'm Chuck. And, you guys should just like talk and figure it out. So I went home and I stalked him on Facebook. And I was like looking through his Facebook profile, and boy, he had 5,000 friends. So I couldn't even friend him. And so I was just looking through his videos, and I'm like, I see him juicing. And then I see like little videos he puts out about like how he's doing today, and just he's like super excited. And I had this like brief thought in my head, wow, this guy could handle me. Like he could actually handle my story, because guys don't want to date you if you have stage 4 breast cancer diagnosis. And ask me how I know. So it was just really interesting. I sent him a Facebook message, like, I'm just trying to figure out how, it wasn't like hitting on him, just trying to figure out how to publish a book. I'd love to like talk to you about it. And I hit send, and 30 days later, he got it.
Because, so on Facebook, nobody knows this unless what happened was I had my buddies in Ohio, my friends from LA. I had 600, 700, 800 people on my Facebook, right? Well, after my cancer journey and the word got out of what was going on, and I did some speaking events, the friends started pouring in, and my Facebook went to 5,000 people, and a personal page caps off at 5,000, right? And I didn't know what a fan page was at the time. I was like, that's my buddies from Ohio and LA and stuff are on there. I don't want to get rid of this. This is my stomping ground, And so what happened was I would go through, there's a message, there's Messenger, and then there's another messenger that if they're not your friend. And I had to go through there. It would fill up so much. Yeah. I would go through there every like once or twice a month, and just mostly just kind of glance through, make sure it wasn't important, and delete them. So I'd sit there in an evening and delete them. And I come to this message, talks about cancer. I know your cousin, Heather. I wrote a book. I need to talk to you about this. And I look back and it was sent 30 days prior. And I was like, oh my goodness, I can't believe I missed this message. It's been in there for a month. So I get right on Messenger and I send her a message back and I say, I am so sorry I missed this. I said, let's grab a cup of coffee, and I hit send.
Well, so I got the message back, but I was overseas visiting families. I was born in the Netherlands, and I was there for about 2.5 weeks visiting my family. And so he caught me probably in the very first week that I was there. So I was like, yeah, that coffee's gonna be a little tricky. I'm gonna have to wait a couple weeks. And so we ended up starting talking online. And when we started sending each other video chats, and we just connected like really quickly and got along.
So cute, I can't stand it to begin with.
It was really fun. And he just made me laugh. And the first video chat I sent, I was wearing my Coke bottle glasses, no makeup, and crazy hair, just to like throw him off the scent. I wasn't like looking for a boyfriend. I was just still trying to figure out how to publish my book.
She comes on with these glasses on, like trying to be a nerd, and she's so cute. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Only you think that's cute. Still, only he thinks that's cute. But yeah, so it was just like we just totally hit it off. We couldn't stop talking to each other, except that I was on a completely different time zone across the ocean, like 9 hours ahead, I think. So it was really tricky to talk to each other. But we figured it out. And then I came stateside and we were able to finally FaceTime. And then I was like, he even joked around one day. He's like, all right, good night, Mrs. Keels. And I was like, well, hold up, like time out. I gotta smell you first. We can't get married yet. So, but I was already like thinking, this guy is legit. Like, I really like him.
And at this age and everything we're going through, the conversations about who's going to want to date me now after going through this. It's definitely physical. There's a lot of changes that happen. It's definitely, emotional. Both of our emotions had changed and went to completely other places, deeper, just all that. And every, so the conversation when she said, who's going to want to date me now? And I'm looking at her like, I would like to be on that list. How can I get on that list? And the thing also that happened in the first month or so of chatting was once she got back having coffee was we talked a lot about our faith because our journeys were so tough, and that we're not in control of this. We're not in control of this. So there's a lot of prayer and stuff. And being a single dad in my 50s, dating, and I mentioned my faith, and a lot of them run. They don't want anything to do with faith. And now with cancer and all this other stuff, but Hannah and I's conversations were just like off the hook. I mean, it was really neat. And one of the things that we decided early in these conversations were the foundation that was really important to both of us when it comes to a relationship. The foundation was definitely there. We also said, you know what? We've both been married in the past. We're both bringing all of our junk to this party, So those things that you're going to squabble about, you're going to get into little tiffs about and stuff, we're going to do that, but none of them are going to be deal breakers. And that's how 3 months after we met, we walked down the aisle and got married 3 months later. And she has 4 boys and I have 2. So there's 6 boys in this picture. And being parents, what do you say to your kids when they start dating? Slow down, take your time. Hey, here we are 3 months later, getting married.
Sealing the deal.
Sealing the deal. Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the really interesting things while we're briefly dating is that Chuck really challenged me to think about my future. And up to that point, I had been diagnosed stage 4. I was stable. I was on oral medication at the time. So I'd originally been diagnosed triple positive. A year later, it turned into PR positive, HER2 negative. And so I was taking an oral pill. It's like oral chemo and doing pretty well, tired, but, functioning. But the thing is, like, I couldn't plan for my future, and I couldn't dream. Like, that's the word I use. I don't know how else to explain it. And he really challenged me to dream again. He's like, what do you see yourself doing in 50 years? And I was like, 50 years? I'm not going to be alive. Like, I literally thought to myself, I think
2 or 3 years.
I was thinking it was by 50, I was going to be dead.
I'm coaching people to get up and live, even with a cancer diagnosis or whatever challenge you've got going on in your life, to get the most out of each day. And I'm talking to this beautiful young lady, we're talking about getting married, and her vision of her future wasn't there. And I'm like, wait a minute. That's not how we roll. We think about life after cancer, and we think about walking on the beach in 30 years holding hands. That's how I go.
So it was how I was thinking then, but it's not how I roll now. So I think that's been really interesting, because not only did he become my husband, he also became my coach, and in a lot of ways we've become each other's coach in this journey, which has been really interesting. Getting to see that, like, where there's times, you get down, or you get start losing some stuff in how you're thinking, and you're like, no, like, I need you to applaud me, or to challenge my thinking positively about this. And the reason I say that is because we got married January 1st, 2020, for better or for worse. And boy, did we put for worse to the test. In sickness and in health, we put the sickness to the test. So before I tell that story, though, one thing that had come up a lot, I noticed when in the brief time we were dating, that he was on the phone all the time with cancer patients, coaching them. And I was like, how are you doing this and doing your landscaping, irrigation, all of that design work? And he's like, I don't know, I just fill in, I just take the call when I can. And I'm like, why don't you have a nonprofit? And he was like, I don't know, it just seems like a mountain to me. I don't know how to do that. And so as we were discussing, or like, well, maybe that's something we really need to start thinking about, praying about. And we did. And 3 weeks after we got home from our honeymoon, we sat down, pushed our desks together, and did all the paperwork for a nonprofit. And within 4 weeks, got a letter from the IRS saying that we got it. So we ended up calling it Living Hope Cancer Foundation, and it's found at getupandlive.org, which has become our motto over the last year and a half. And what we do is coach the positive mindset of cancer. And it's out of our own experiences. We both didn't have that in our beginning of our cancer journeys, nor through some of the first years of them. And is something that we learn how to do. And it's been amazing to be stepping out of our own experience and helping other people because we've done it. We know how to do it. And our voices just really make a difference to people because they recognize that we're in the same journey or have been through the same journey.
Yeah. To me, this is kind of funny. To me, it kind of reminded me of like Shark Tank, where you find this little niche and nobody else is doing it. We found this niche. We could not find somebody that would sit there and talk to us about how, what to do next and and here's the way we put it. This is kind of simplifies it. When it comes to a cancer diagnosis, we believe there's two plans. We believe that you have your medical plan with your doctors and anybody, your family, and everybody around you for your medical plan. And your medical plan is so important because if you just get one opinion and you don't ask tough questions, then, you just say, okay, that's what we're going to do. That's what we're going to do. So we coach people. We coach people to, to get second opinions, to ask very tough questions, do some of their own research on what they're going through and ask the questions so that going forward, they feel very comfortable with their medical plan. Okay. So on the other hand, you have to have a personal plan. And your personal plan, we came up with things that we did, and they came up with the foundations for our Living Hope Cancer Foundation was prayer, love, your community, your family, people around you, juicing, nutrition, frankincense essential oil we love the way it just charges the body, and moving your body. Number 5 was move your body. And move your body means different to everybody because if you just had surgery, you're not going to be going to the gym with Chuck. But you might be on your living room floor doing a controlled breathing class. You might start into a slow stretching class for beginners, and then a few months later work up to where you're actually doing yoga for beginners, things like that. And then eventually we do want you in the gym. We do want you going to a yoga class. We do want you walking with your husband, your wife, your dog, around the block. We do want you going for a bike ride. This is the things that we gradually coach people into. So it's the medical plan and the personal plan. And what's the reason why the personal plan is so important? How many times have we seen the medical plan not go the way that they thought it was going to go?
Right.
And when that happened, the wheels fell off. It was terrible. And so even if your medical plan has its ups and downs, if you have your own personal plan, and if you can get up and live, and if you can smile through a cancer diagnosis, and if you can hug your grandkids, and if you can plan a vacation this year, and if you can do these things, it's the quality of lifestyle really takes a nice, huge, big, beautiful change. And that's what we started seeing with the people that we were coaching. And I even got to see that with my beautiful wife, who said, at first she was like, I can't see past the next 2 or 3 years. And what did you tell me just a few months later?
I can see us walking on the beach when we're 83. Well, he's like 8 years older than me, so I'll be 83.
But that ability
Yeah.
to dream again, and to, that it was absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
It changes a lot, changes everything.
Yeah.
So I want to tell you a little bit about our for better or for worse bit.
Hang on, guys.
So about four months after we got married in the middle of 2020, just as COVID started hitting all of us, I started having a lot of neck problems, breathing problems, heart rate was going fast. Trying to figure it out. My doctor was sending me to the cardiologist and the pulmonologist, eventually got a CAT scan. Finally, through all of that, figured out there all of a sudden cancer had spread further. And one morning I woke up in so much pain from my neck that I was throwing up violently from it. It was that intense. And Chuck had no choice but to bring me to the ER. And we knew that bringing us to the ER in the middle of COVID would be saying goodbye. I'm not sure when I'm going to see you again. So we really tried to put that off and could no longer. So he dropped me off, and they shuttle me in. Everything's all alone. The hospital's super quiet. There's no one in it. And they sent me for an X-ray and a CT scan and bring me back to my room. And eventually they get the results back and come in and be like, we need to let you know you have a broken neck. You literally have a fractured neck. And there's a tumor in your C5. and we're gonna have to move you to another hospital and do surgery on you immediately. And I was like, what? Like, who walks around with a broken neck? And so they actually snuck Chuck in, even though they weren't allowing people in. And he spent about an hour and a half with me before they moved me to the other hospital.
It was, I was in my parking lot. I wasn't going to go home until I found out what was going on with Hannah. And I'm out there a few hours later, and all of a sudden, like, bing, 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 I jump, and the nurse is knocking on my window, and she says, we want to take you inside. We're going to take you in a back door. And the look on her face was like, this is scary, because now they know that she had cancer spread throughout her spine, broke her neck. And she was getting ready to be transferred over to another hospital for a surgery. And I actually walked in, and she had tears in her eyes, and they took me in through a back door and into her room to sit next to her until transport came to take her to the next hospital. And we got to spend an hour together because they actually had a look on their face like, this doesn't look good.
Yeah, so they transported me, did a fusion through my neck. You could see the scar, had a brace on for weeks and weeks. It was rough, not expected. And when they got the tumor results, they found out I was triple negative. So now it's the third different kind of.
You had triple positive, and you had ER positive.
ER, yeah, HER2 negative,
Now
and then
triple
triple
negative.
negative, which is unusual. I think some of that has to do with that they don't always biopsy every tumor, but it is pretty unusual to have 3 different kinds. So it literally changes all of your treatment protocols every single time.
And the cells they mutate, you know,
Yeah.
and it's hard to explain because the type of cancer you start out with, the reason why cancer is so persistent and the reason why it spreads is because it evades the normal mechanisms by which these cells are even supposed to die. Like, they figure out a way, and then they figure out a way around treatment, and they figure out another way. And it's just this horrible process that is, it's so daunting to explain to patients, you know, and it's hard to explain why you start out with one thing, end up with something else, and end up with something else. But you are just a walking miracle here. I mean, wow.
Right.
Just wait. So this is the first time I went on IV chemo. So lost my hair, and he sat down the same morning. I was starting to feel that hurt, you know, and your scalp just gets so sore and the hair has to come out before it falls out. And I had very long curly hair. So he puts the drape around me and start cutting. I'd gotten my hair cut shorter, so it wasn't like these big long pieces, because that's just so traumatic. And so he shaved my shorter hair off, and then he hands me the razor and sits down. He's like, okay, my turn. So in solidarity, we were bald together for a couple months. And during that time, I also had a tumor on my chest right around here that was sitting on my pulmonary artery. And that was what was causing my heart rate to spike and my breathing to be difficult. And so the only treatment they really wanted to do was to radiate that area. And so I had about 5 radiation treatments on that and started really having trouble swallowing. And I thought first it was just because the surgery had gone through my neck, but we started to realize it was actually more in my esophagus, and that I had esophageal laceration, or what's the word? I'm blanking out on chemo brain, ulcerations. So eventually ended up in the ER 3 times. And the 3rd time they admitted me and finally figured it out, because I couldn't even swallow my own spit, and ended up with a feeding tube for 7 weeks just to keep me alive and allow that area to heal. So it was a pretty rough summer, wearing a neck brace, having a feeding tube. You know, this is our first year of the honeymoon.
So wait, this is all during the honeymoon year.
Oh, yes.
Incredible.
Yes. So by like month 9 after we got married, finally all of the things are out and healed. We actually ended up zip lining in the same month. 1 month we went zip lining, jet skiing, and kayaking, because we literally live our motto, get up and live. So if there's something we can do, we're going to do it, because who has time to waste, right?
That's right.
And if the opportunity presents itself, we take it carefully, of course. But so we had a real blast. And then a couple months later, I started having lower back problems, and finally figured out through another trip to the ER once again that I had a fracture in my sacrum, my lower back. And then a few months later, all of a sudden I wasn't able to sit up anymore or stand. And it was determined that I had a fracture, one level lower than he did at the L4. And I literally wasn't able to stand. And I always find that this is something we talked about, like when he was taking care of me and helping me sit up and bringing my toothbrush to me. I was literally bedridden for 2 weeks before they finally figured out they needed to do a fusion on me, that he was doing every single thing for me. And what a miracle he had, because similar area in your back, it is very difficult to walk and not have that tremendous pain. And
Yeah. So, I mean, with the pain she was going through, I'd help her sit up and fix dinner and bring it in and feed her and everything. And one night I was just helping her and she's like, oh, ouch, oh, and to get her set up and the pillows propped behind her and get her food ready and stuff. And it just dawned on me. And I sat there looking at her, I go, you know what? This is what a fractured back feels like if you didn't have a fast miracle. So the night after my surgery, I was walking around the hospital floors. And the nurses even were like, what are you doing out here? Couldn't believe I was out of my bed. Well, if I didn't have that happen, I know now what it feels like and the pain that's involved with, the body's, the breaking down of bones from cancer. And I didn't have that. I had a miracle and I was able to walk the hospital floors and walk in the fire escape and get exercise and stuff. So it was a big eye opener, sitting there helping Hannah and I was like, wow. And there was a very, very tough year and a half that this all covered.
yeah, and so it required, eventually, just because I was bedridden for so long, they decided to do a fusion to stabilize my spine. And it ended up being a 7-hour fusion. It was 4 hours longer than they thought. And when the doctor came out, you're good at telling this.
Yeah, so she's in there, and they said probably 2.5 to 3 hours, and 4, 5, 6 hours. I'm in the waiting room. I'm starting to get kind of freaked out. I'm in tears. I call her parents in North Carolina, and I'm like, she's still in there. And so finally, at 7 hours after it starts, the surgeon comes out pulling all of his scrubs and stuff off, and he's looking at me, and he's like, Chuck, he says, I cannot believe what we found once we opened up her back. There was so much cancer spread in her sacrum area that he was just blown away. And they did their best. 7 hours worth of work on her. Put all the metal reconstruction and stuff in there. We're able to actually clean out 50% of the cancer that was in there. But it was a traumatic experience. And so basically what happened was.
Yeah, I was supposed to wake up in my room and I ended up waking up in the ICU with 60 staples. And I felt like I'd gotten hit by a truck and then like rolled a few times. And it was tough. I had to be on narcotics. I ended up losing a ton of weight, was throwing up from them. It was probably one of the darkest parts of my life, just because the pain was so crazy and I couldn't get rid of it. And it's really hard to see past pain. And these are those moments where he is rooting me on, and reminding me of truth and to be able to see past it, knowing my body will heal. It just takes time. My mom was great at that too, just reminding me like it takes 6 weeks for your body to heal enough to get back to somewhat normal. And so all of these voices helping me, that loved me and reminding me of those things, just always reminds me how important it is for me to root people on and encourage them too.
It was a huge test of my faith because the devil loves coming in and saying, hey, it's cancer, it's bad, blah, blah, blah. And so you freak out, right? And so it was a big test of my faith, surrounding me with the right people and praying with the right people that gave me the strength to be her number one warrior, number one caregiver, through this whole journey. But it still ain't easy. We're still going through it now. We're still dealing with it now.
Yeah. So what ended up happening 6 weeks after that fusion, I ended up having a titanium rod driven into my right femur because they were really concerned that the head of the femur, the big bone in the top right of your leg, was unstable and they didn't want it to break. And so another surgery on top of that, ended up not being able to walk at all right away. And so I had to be in a wheelchair, and eventually we got a motorized wheelchair, and that gave me a ton of independence back, where I was able to at least go outside and scooter my way around and go to the kitchen. He lowered everything in our kitchen so I could reach it. And even at first in the wheelchair, I had to lay back because I couldn't sit up. I couldn't sit in a chair. But slowly I started to heal. And the surgery was in April and in May. So by July, I had been in the wheelchair and also been doing physical therapy twice a week and doing regular exercises every day. And one of those things was going to our local pool and carefully getting in. And I was able to walk in the pool. I couldn't walk on land, but I could walk in the pool. And that was a really big part of me being able to get back on my feet, was just to push myself every day and walk back and forth and do little exercises. And eventually I was able to start doing them on land. And I think that's just tremendous to be able to find, like, even though I couldn't do something on land, I could do it in the pool. And eventually I could get on my bike, my e-bike, and we just figured out what can I do, and not what can't I do, but what can I do. And that made all the difference. Like, you could sit home and cry and pull up the blanket, or you can go and try to do things that you might be able to do. And that even led to like sitting in the kayak. I couldn't paddle, but I could sit in it. So it was like all of our favorite things were still be able to figure out how to do them in some modified way till I was able to do them in a real way.
So as you guys can imagine, our biggest concern, of course, is Hannah's health. We're every minute of every day is focused on her health, her recovery, what she can do, what she can't do. Maybe setting mini goals, but not too much. I mean, there wasn't a lot we could do at the time she was going through these surgeries and then all this pain and stuff. But at the same time, we're getting calls from all over the country from cancer people because we have a foundation now. And somebody told us about you, or we Googled and found you guys. And so we're coaching people. She's in her bed. I go through three coaching calls while she's in her bed from her surgery. It was unbelievable. So not only, were we taking our cancer calls every day, which we still are doing now, but we're also, the foundation was starting to grow and get recognized and build as well. And our board of directors, we had a call with them and they're like, what's going on? And when we told them, they're like, what are you going to do in 6 months, a year when this keeps growing? And we're like, we really didn't know. And so they said, we need a library. We need somewhere you can send them once you meet them. And so we started writing down important topics when we were talking to somebody. And we ended up with the first ones that we worked on. We did 50 2 to 3 minute videos, and we called them the Cancer Roadmap Project. And so we wanted people to meet them, talk to them, encourage them, make sure they knew we were going to be calling them again in a few weeks. But we wanted them to be able to go on there and find these videos and watch these in their own time. And then also, you guys know how it is too. You get a lot of the guys that are diagnosed with cancer, they don't want anybody to know about it. Well, my husband don't want to talk on the phone, but this is what we're going through. Okay, well, guess what? Go on and watch these videos because they're free, and you can watch these in the privacy of your own home. So we launched the Cancer Roadmap Project, and then Hannah was getting so many calls about breast cancer that she added.
Yeah, I did a what to expect with a mastectomy, little video series, 16 different videos. They're real short, very consumable, because it was something I wish I had. Even as a nurse, I had no idea what to expect. And then was not prepared at all by my plastic surgeon or breast surgeon. And so I dealt with a lot of, it's not completely exhaustive, but I dealt with most of the topics that you deal with, just like what to expect when you wake up, or what you need to set your little healing space up with, and like what you can wear and what you can't wear and all that kind of stuff, like real helpful, practical.
There's so much. Exactly. There's so much that you can't know and figure out and do all together. And you don't know how you're going to feel. Even if you feel pretty good, you're going to be tired. Like I tell all my patients, even if you feel really well after surgery, don't overdo it. because if
Yeah.
you start vacuuming, I say no vacuuming, no tailgating, no laundry. You know, if you're going to cheer, you cheer from here, not from here. Like there's just so many things that you think you can do, and then the next couple of days you're really paying for it, and you've got to pace yourself. You got to know that
Well,
even
that's
if your
it too.
scars are small,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You know,
So
it's
you
still,
need
it's a
that healing
lot of
time.
surgery. Mhm.
Yeah. And it's so
Yeah.
important. Like if you guard that healing time, then you bounce
Yes,
back faster.
preciously.
No.
And build your nutrition on the
Yeah.
way. And I think that doctors don't talk enough about that too. And so I'm always really careful to make sure that we incorporate a nutritionist, that we talk about food and diet and what does that actually look like? So what's on your plate, you know? And I think it's people watch these stories, like I'm listening to you and there's so much richness that you guys there's so many gems you're dropping, right? About perseverance, about faith, about maximizing every moment and about maximizing function. Whatever you can do, focus on what you can do and maybe not so much on what you can't do.
I love
Right?
that.
Like there's so many great lessons here. How, let's see, I'm trying to think of what to ask for the people who are sitting on their stump, right? They're watching and they're going through the through. Where do they even start to tap into this type of optimism?
Well, start with our video series. I think that's really helpful because it just walks them through like all kinds of things. It's not just nutrition or sitting or getting up. It's about not being a victim, not having a victim mindset. Words are powerful. You know, it touches so many different topics that are really helpful.
And
They
here,
helped us.
I think one of the biggest things in this unbelievable how, you know, God put this plan together was the fact that 2 stage 4 people are making these videos. So they're not just watching somebody making these videos to make money or whatever the reason may be. This is something that we've experienced. Every one of these videos, you watch them and we experienced something in that realm to make that video. And I mean, to me, I'd rather be, if I'm in a situation, I want to talk to somebody that's been through the, you know, been around it, these type of things. And I think that's how they became so powerful. So the cancer roadmap videos are huge. Another thing that they do in the conference or the coaching calls do is when we're talking to somebody and they're going through something like, say, for chemo, for example. And at the time we started this, Hannah had never been through, chemo like I had, drip chemo. And it floored me. And everybody deals with it differently. And me, it just kicked my butt. I mean,
every chemo is different. I think that's the really important part there. It's like that they give you different side effects, you know.
But to talk to somebody about what they're going through and tell them that that's normal. It's normal. You don't got to freak out. You don't have to, stress, worry, cause your body other problems. This is normal. Give it 3 or 4 days. You're going to be back, you're going to have good days and bad days. We tell them on the bad days, that's the body saying, I need to rest and heal. And on the good days is when you go for a swim, go for a walk in the park, take your dog for a walk, all these things, because you get as much out of you can as those good days.
Yeah. One of my other really big things I like to remind people is like, people come up to you and you're like, I'll do anything for you. Like, can I do something for you? And you never know what to answer them. Like my answer is always like, sign up for a meal. I set up Meal Train, which is like a website, and people can sign up for meals. And you can even tell them, I don't want a meal from you. Like send me one from DoorDash, or they can give you money for food. But it's such a helpful thing because you're not going to always want to be cooking. And there's just
I love that
ways to get people
right. Because people always want to know, one, how they can help you. And I think that we don't tell people enough how they can help us in ways that are important. Maybe it's take the kids so that I can go to this yoga class because I know that if I don't have babysitting, I can't go. Or it's a meal prep. Maybe you don't necessarily want someone to cook you a meal. I had one patient, she said, I got a freezer full of turkey and gravy and mashed potatoes and lasagna and all this comfort food that I didn't want. All I wanted was my smoothies, my salads. I was trying to go green. And, my family showed up for me, but they showed up in ways that I couldn't utilize at that time. And then I didn't know how to tell them differently, So this idea, because people always say, what do you need? What can I do for you? And rather than say nothing, give them something.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to be a part of this journey and a part of this story, especially when you see your faith in action like this part of
Yeah.
it, and certainly prayer as well.
Yeah.
Oh,
People
yeah.
that haven't been through this don't understand that when she's going through chemo, radiation, and things like that, I've got to go to the grocery store and get the groceries. I've got to prepare the food. So when you hand us a meal card, a gift card or whatever it may be, it's so huge because that's a night that we don't have to even worry about that. We're just going to say, what can you swallow right now? And that's what we're going to order. So the gift card thing has been amazing for us. And then we've actually given gift cards also to people that we're dealing with as well.
Yeah. I like practical.
Yeah. So Chuck, go back to when you saw Jesus. Okay, I'm still back there. I haven't I'm trying to keep up.
It's okay. That's the best place to be.
but I mean, you're such on a faith walk, you know what I mean? And how do you explain or help people with that? Do you use that story to help people? Because
Oh yeah.
I know, I did too. I mean, I know I got pulled out of, what I was dealing with. So it's so important to relinquish your faith, right? Like I
Right,
remember calling one of my prayer warriors saying, I don't know what to pray for. She's like, pray for healing, damn it. But I knew I couldn't pray for healing because didn't feel right in my spirit. I knew that I had to pray for God's will to be done and just give control to God, right?
Right.
That's the big one right there, is that
But
giving that control.
Wow.
But I
Yeah.
see
That's
that you
one of
guys
our
are
biggest
doing, you relinquished your faith, you just gave control to God. So, but by doing that, you got your power back.
Yeah.
So I think your faith almost gave you your power back because you could then take control of things that you had lost control over, right?
Yeah.
Well, I think this is part you just didn't tell, but that night, I think
I'll tell it right now.
that's the part you need to
Yeah.
tell.
So what happened was just along the lines that we're talking about right now. I've got a story and I've got pictures on my phone when I was down 40 pounds, my bone scans, my compression fracture. So you can't stand there and tell somebody the story and then go, that didn't happen. I don't believe that you saw Jesus and I don't believe you were healed from cancer because I've got so much proof. And so I love this gift that God gave us to share with people. And something pretty amazing happened. So I always say May 26, 2015, because that's when I see the vision at the hospital that morning. Okay. But something really, really kind of neat happened that night also. So I already kind of started feeling in my head like this is something way bigger than you ever imagined. I don't know what yet. I'm human. I'm trying to figure this out, right? And as an old farm boy from Ohio, I'm in bed by 8:30, 9 o'clock every night. I'd rather be sleeping by 9 o'clock, back up at 4:35 and get with it, And so I'm in the hospital. I didn't wash my face. I didn't even turn the lights off in my hospital room. And I'm laying there at 9 o'clock, feeling sorry for myself. And I said, cancer, can you believe I'm dealing with this? I got 2 boys to raise. Is this a short journey, long journey? I'm all this is going through my head, right? And I watched the clock go from 9 to 10 to 11 to 12 o'clock. I'm never up that late. And I'm laying there mad, feeling sorry for myself. And by around midnight, I look at the ceiling and I go, okay, God, this is between you and me. I said, is this a short journey or a long journey? And just like us chatting right now, I hear a voice and it says, you've been a fighter your entire life. What are you doing? He says, as long as you're alive, be fully alive. As long as you're alive, be fully alive. Do something with it. Don't lay around feeling sorry for yourself. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I get out of my bed, I grab my IV pole and I go towards the bathroom to wash my face. And I didn't go in the bathroom. I went in the hall and I walked 2 laps around the hospital floor. The day after I had, the morning I had the surgery for my compression fracture, I was fitted for a back brace. I walked 2 laps. I got back to the room. I was dead tired. I went in to wash my face. I went back, turned off the lights, got in bed, and I laid there and I looked at the ceiling and I go, thank you. I needed this so much. Thank you. I said, I get teared up thinking about it because I remember right now what I felt like, what I was going through for the last few weeks of this, watching my body deteriorate. And I said, as long as you're alive, be fully alive. I said, you know what, God, I miss Chuck. I miss me being silly me, making people laugh, making my kids smile. I miss me. I want to be me again. And so I said, you know what? If you could do this, and I'm blown away already walking the floors and stuff. If you could do this, I completely surrender to you and I'll let you orchestrate my life 100%. And I put it to the test and we still are on a daily basis. God orchestrates our lives, right? And I'm telling you right now, May 26th was so beautiful and so important to me because I experienced something that when I tell people, they're just sitting there with tears in their eyes, like, you see Jesus, he touched you. But even more important than that to me is, or as important as that is, May 26th, that night, I established a relationship with Jesus for the first time in my life ever, and was mad because I wasted so much time in the past. And realized how beautiful life is because it's not about the material things. It's not about the amount of money in my bank account. It's not about having 5 cars in my driveway and a big swimming pool in the backyard. Now it's about service, blessing other people. And because of that, God is completely taking care of Hannah and I, traveling around the country, speaking about our foundation, hugging people, crying with people, and blessed to do what we do.
Yeah, in the middle of a stage 4 cancer diagnosis. Like that's always what boggles my mind. I had chemo last week, but I think that's the thing when he says that, that's how I live. As long as you're alive, be fully alive, which is why since I've been diagnosed with cancer, I've written 2 books. We wrote one together. He wrote one by himself. I wrote one, and started a nonprofit and traveled to Europe. And I'm amazed to do that and actually wrote all those things down. Probably may not have even have done that had I been diagnosed, and I think that's like the really cool thing is giving people permission to live.
Can you reach those books right there?
Yeah, okay. Giving people permission to live and not like, just because you have a diagnosis doesn't mean you can't be really useful and have a purpose. And I think
Say that again. Say it again.
Just because you have a diagnosis doesn't mean you can't be useful or don't have a purpose. I think I have a better and a newer calling in my life right now. And I think speaking out of pain and out of suffering, how to suffer well and how to suffer with joy and complete peace is more useful with me in this right now than I could probably speak out of it. And not that I want to stay here because I'm fully believing full healing, but that's where I'm at right now, and I'm going to use it and I'm going to glorify God in the middle of it.
Wow.
We say it all the time. We say, this is not a sentence, it's a situation. Cancer's not a sentence, and people shut down and start freaking out and going crazy because you see the same person that was freaking out and going crazy 2 years later, still freaking out and going crazy. And I said, we started coaching you 2 years ago to relax, to breathe, to get some juice in your body and feel good about what you're doing, exercise, go to the ocean and get some ocean air and some sunshine on your face. And it's not a sentence, it's a situation. And that is huge because that's what stops somebody from completely shutting down, folding up the tent, going home, feeling sorry for themselves. We've experienced all of this ourselves. And so we actually, we get to share that on a daily basis.
So here's our new book.
That's the new book.
That's
there
awesome.
it is.
Everybody was like, what about this
Okay.
this story? This story. And then we were like, what are you talking about? Like the love story, these two. So we wrote this book all about what we just talked about over the last couple of years since we met. A little bit before of what we dealt with in order to get into this place we came to. But this book, what we're finding out, it launched about 4 weeks ago and hit Amazon. And the people that are reading it are people going through cancer journeys and people not going through cancer journeys.
Yeah.
Blown away. blown away. The inspiration of two people going through what we're going through, and still look at her. Look at this girl. She's glowing. She had chemo on Tuesday. You know, this is what we live our lives every single day, but is also what we coach. And we said, you know, we've got to get this book out. We've got to touch as many people's hearts as we possibly can.
Hey, Chuck, what do you do when you have a bad day?
They're not bad days. It's we have bad moments. We do have a lot of them. We have a lot of them, and we get this question a lot.
And usually the bad moments are because of physical issues.
Mhm.
I can't say I'm ever in a bad mood, or am I? I don't know. I might be
Yeah,
grumpy
but
a
it's
little
all
bit.
short. It's not,
Yeah,
it's never,
not a long
you know,
period
a
of
whole
time.
day later, a whole week later. And how many people have you seen 4 months later still in a bad mood? So we have bad moments and we recognize the situation,
I
and
have
the
a good
stuff
example.
that we can change, we change. And the stuff we can't change, we say a little prayer and say, God,
Right.
here you go. Here you go.
So I have a good
That's right.
example.
And we move on.
Yeah.
And we move on.
So about 6 weeks ago now, I ended up in the ER. I had a weird pulling sensation on top of my head, running down my spine. Just want to keep an eye on time. And a long story short, they found 2 lesions, teeny tiny microbleeds on my brain. And they're like, we don't know if it's a mini stroke or if it's metastasis, but we're just going to watch it, do another MRI in a month. So I just had an MRI a couple weeks ago, and it showed 4 lesions now, so doubled. And now we got to do something about it. So heck yeah, we cried when we found out I have cancer in my brain, you know, and I have to have brain radiation, and I am not looking forward to it. And we cried. I cried. We held each other. And then the thing I do is pray and give it to God, because I can't control it. And I'm super frustrated that I have to go through all this, but I know that God can also turn it into good and use it.
Yeah.
And he can heal me completely from it. So I am just standing in that, you know, reality. And I think that is the thing. We do that every day, every morning. We
Wow.
start that way in
Wow.
full surrender. Like, God, you've got this day. We give it to you. We're so excited for all the people you're going to let us meet, because this guy doesn't shut up, and I love it. It's the best thing about him, that he has to tell everybody about his story, because his story is now my story, and my story is now his story. And we tell everyone, whether we're in the airplane or in TJ Maxx in the aisle, and 5 other people come over. And it's really beautiful. And you know, a lot of times we consider ourselves cancer missionaries because we get to share our hope with everybody else in the middle of our storm.
Sounds like the title of your next book to me.
Yeah. You know,
Ricky, I can't think of a better way to get over the hump, right? The Wednesday hump day, than to walk away from this discussion with this level of awareness and optimism, and being in touch with your faith, and the fact that things are not perfect. They're not necessarily going to be perfect, but that we serve a God who is absolutely perfect, right? Like, it's incredible. Wow. All right.
Get up and live. I put all your stuff in the comments, you guys, your website and your book, link to the book, so our viewers can see it.
if somebody's going through cancer, we want to talk to them.
Yeah.
We want to talk to them. If it's one conversation or if it's going to be 15, we don't care. That's up to us, and that's up to them, and that's up to God. But we want to talk to them, because this is just such an unbelievable journey that he's put us on to coach, to laugh with, cry with, hug people. I mean, I had to put on my business cards the world's best hugger.
Love it. Oh, I love it so much.
Yeah. So, but you know, the thing is, we want them to be able to find us, to get access to the roadmap, cancer roadmap videos, on getupandlive.org. And we want them to go out and get a tattoo like ours. You got to get up and live tattoos.
We live by it. We have to look at it every day.
Yeah,
We
absolutely.
have gear on our website, so lots of shirts that say "Get Up and Live."
And
so.
cancer doesn't care the color of your skin. Cancer doesn't care how much money's in your bank account.
Yeah.
Cancer does not care. Cancer don't care. It doesn't discriminate. So we work with everybody, because it's not one race or another race. It's called the human race. And that's what we deal with on a daily basis. So
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. Oh my gosh.
All right, we have the websites, we have the information, we got the contact information, we put the link to the book. You got to get this book, and more importantly, you got to get up and live. Oh,
Yeah.
Get up and live.
that's it. We hope this has been relatable and reliable and real. That's what we set out to do every Wednesday night. We've been doing this every Wednesday on blackdoctor.org for the last year and a half since COVID, since just when COVID started, so that we could reach people right where they are and help them to feel more connected and help them to live fuller lives. And I can't think of an episode that embodies that more than this one. Thank you, guys.
Thank you for
Thank you.
having us.
Love you guys.
So
Oh
much.
my gosh. Yeah.
Thank you so much. You guys
Thank you.
are precious.
Yeah. Thanks to Black Doctor. Thanks to our sponsors.
Yeah, thank you.
And thanks God for sending Chuck and Hannah to all of us and to all of you who are watching. So get up and live.
Rusty
The
love.
doctor's in. Rusty love.
Mm-mm.
Rusty love. Bye. Thank you. Bye, Mo.
See ya.